Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What is going on, everybody? What's going on, Chip? Ripple XRP, that's what is up. The final act. Do we win? Do we lose? Nothing's for certain yet, but we're going to discuss that, see who's right, who's wrong. SBF, a fraud. And Chip, when Flare?
When Flare?
Flare.
I'm not a genius, but I'm going to go with next year.
Next year, 2025. Sounds about right.
Pretty safe answer there, but no, we'll break that down as well. That's going to be a good one too. You guys ready to kick this puppy off?
Let's.
Who's ready to go? Let's go.
Who's ready?
Let's do it.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Welcome to On the Chain, everybody. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Let's do it. So welcome. This is the last official show of 2022. Can't say I'm that sorry to watch 2022 go by, but
can't wait for 2023. 2023 is going to be the most amazing year that anyone's ever seen for many different reasons.
Yeah, but maybe not for the reasons everybody hopes for. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, people are thinking, oh, it's going to be awesome, but there is a lot of stuff on the horizon. There's a lot of cool stuff there. So
lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. A lot of cool stuff going on. So we'll get there as well. We'll see what's going on there. It's interesting in this. Let me throw this up here. So it looks like Paradigm. You know, we had Lewis Cohen last week that was admitted pro hoc vice, right? Pro hoc vice, which means that they're from another jurisdiction and they'll be admitted to represent somebody in the court. And then this one yesterday, Jimmy Filan put this one up. This one here was attorney Michelle Kallen of Jenner Block LLP filed a motion to appear pro hoc vice on behalf of amicus curiae, and that's for Paradigm. So Paradigm has two high-powered people, and of course that was granted. The motion was granted, and there you go. So there it is. So it looks like they got two strong attorneys representing Paradigm operations. Then we had Lewis Cohen the other day. So,
and who is Paradigm Operations?
Google it, Jeff.
I'm Googling.
Google it. And so there you go. It's one of the. It's one of the 14 that filed on behalf of.
Yep.
Ripple, but I just don't remember exactly what they do. But interesting that they just recently had two high-powered attorneys, which
it's outstanding. It really, these guys, they've been around the block. It's good to see that that more and more are getting actively involved. The SEC, Chip, has far overreached their
understatement of the year.
Oh,
the decade, maybe even century. Can we go century?
Man, I think let's go century. Let's go in the past 2 centuries. Let's say in all of since the formation of the SEC, I think this is their year of the biggest overreach. Is that about right?
Oh, 2020, but I mean, yeah. I mean, it's been a lot, but it seems to me like it kind of falls within everything. It's like a big government overreach everywhere. And it's not just isolated to the United States. It's pretty much everywhere. There's been a lot of overstepping and overreaching going on. And it's in a lot of different jurisdictions. It's not just in any kind of regulation for crypto. So it's been quite the show.
It's been an interesting ride, man. I'll tell you what, over the past couple of years, but all this this pent up hostility has been percolating, for a while. Obviously, it doesn't just happen overnight, so we've seen it kind of unfolding. But it's interesting when we start looking at the powers that are battling, kind of behind the scenes. And then you see some of the big players that get taken down or upset, and if you look at some legacy, who destroyed And it was an interesting article I saw, but they went through a couple different political figures who destroyed their legacies this past year, completely devastated their legacies. Obviously, Fauci being one of them, but man, I think Gary Gensler, and I don't even know if Gary Gensler had a legacy going into this, but I guarantee you before he took over the SEC, nobody really knew who he was.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
they knew him from
even
the CFTC, but I don't think anybody in the crypto community was
nobody
paying
cared.
attention.
Not even
Yeah,
in the
nobody
stock
cared.
community. I don't think anyone cared. Nobody cared who he was. He was a guy, heading the CFTC. But you think all these, the Wall Street Bets guys and everybody else, nobody really focused. But now it's not just crypto. So if we look at, you have a
Sure.
lot of the stock traders out there, especially on YouTube, they hate him as well. Based on what he's done over his past tenure.
What he's done, what he's failed to do, and this FTX thing's not a good look. They can say what they want about it, but truth be told, he had multiple meetings. He was looking at writing basically legislation, even though there was enough legislation out there. Of course, he wouldn't even. The guy is such a nut job, Gary Gensler, that he wouldn't even pay any attention at all to Hester Peirce's safe harbor, which basically we had that video the other day where he kind of came out and said, you should give enough time for crypto projects to kind of come up and everything. It's amazing. These guys, they talk a good game and everything. Then they get a little bit of power and they want to be the cop on the beat, bring on the hammer and starts, smashing people and throat punching people, which is very bizarre. I want to put this up. Jeremy Hogan put this. He said, I own XRP. He put out this tweet. I own XRP because I know Ripple can't be sued again. I own Algorand because the Algorand Foundation won't be sued at all. And then he posted a video here of Gary Gensler, which I have here. Let's watch the actual video itself.
The G man.
Obviously, Gary Gensler from MIT, but let's do this. So let's find out what he's talking about here.
What is he talking about?
Sylvia McCally's Algorand, who's a Turing Award winner at MIT that I work with. Sylvia's got a great technology that has the performance. You could create Uber on top of it.
Well, there you go. Not going to get sued because obviously Gary has a personal connection, singing the praises of that. So I thought that was actually a pretty good tweet up there. What do you think about that?
Spot on. So here's the question. Obviously, Ripple could be sued again, just not for the same
thing, yeah.
Not the same thing. So, this point on Algorand, we can even go back to some of the statements that he's made over a period of time, in regards to crypto. The guy's a little bit all over the map at this point. He's definitely rolled back some of the things he said, but I'm always going to go back to one of the key points that Gary Gensler made that is probably one of the only truthful things or on point things that he said. It has to do with regulation, that if you want regulation in the industry, then Congress has to act. So if Congress wants it, then do something about it. And, that was, his point on, statement of his entire, the entire time we've been spending, focused on his talking points. Other than that, the rest of it's a bunch of noise. It's kind of like, in Peanuts, when the teacher was talking. Oh, here it was.
Yeah,
It's all like
absolutely.
wah. If Congress wants regulation, they need to pass something. Wah.
Pretty much how it goes, man. It's pretty interesting. So, out of curiosity, I was putting this up here because 2023 would be the year of, and this is interesting because out of the 4 options here, we had crypto regulation. I put this poll out, crypto enforcement. So 2023 will be the year of crypto regulation, of crypto enforcement, a bull run, or a bear market. And so let's start with the lowest to the highest. The lowest one was the bull run with 19. Well, it's kind of tied with the bear market, 19%, 19.1. Isn't that weird, right? And so we had 743 people voting in this, and this closed, I think, about an hour ago. And it's like right around just under 20% people thinking bull run, people thinking bear market. Then we had the crypto enforcement.
Interesting.
coming in at 18%. So just a little bit under there. So people are very, very bullish on crypto regulation. That came in at 43%. So out of the four, the bottom three are almost about the same. 18.3 for crypto enforcement, 19% for bull run, 19.1% for bull market, or bear market, I should say.
And there's obviously a 1% margin of error. So
yeah, so it's all about the same. So people are.
It's all about the same, man. That's amazing. That's really amazing. The bull run and the bear market, 19%.
So this one kind of surprised me a little bit because I was kind of thinking crypto enforcement might weigh a little bit heavier in this whole thing, and maybe optimism would come to the forefront, and maybe somebody would think that, well, hey, maybe we'll get a bull run. But really, the sentiment right there is pretty much around the same. And I was kind of surprised that people are really bullish on crypto regulation. I mean, there is a lot of optimism around that. I mean, especially when you have a split Congress with, the red team taking over on January 3rd here in the United States with the House of Representatives, and then you have Congress, the other side of Congress, half of Congress, and the Senate is still owned by the blue team. And so, is there even a appetite, Jeff? Is there an appetite for crypto regulation with all the other things that they've been talking about pursuing? Do you think there's an appetite for that in 2023?
So I think people that voted are, they're definitely spot on with the regulation. I think we're definitely moving in that direction. The battle that we're going to have, like you just brought up, we have two teams. You have a red team and a blue team, and you have a split Congress. And so although you might get it, it'll be interesting to see the jockeying that takes place. It also will boil down to whoever becomes the majority leader in the House, Chip. I think that is going to have a lot to do with the appetite for crypto regulation, to see if it gets passed through, to see where their chips fall. So I think there's a lot to it. But here's, I think part of the issue with that is that you didn't, nobody has a magic 8-ball to really make a determination in terms of where the next bull market run is going to be. And so I think people are pretty spot on with the regulation, that we're still moving in the direction. I don't know if it's going to pass. It might pass the House. It might not pass the House. Question whether or not it passed the House, it passed the Senate. But here, I'll tell you who has the magic 8-ball, Chip, to make a determination on when the next crypto bull run is. But the magic 8-ball belongs to CZ. You know why? Because he predicted the one catalyst that's going to drive the next bull market. Not catalysts with an S, multiple, but there's only one catalyst. That's because he has a magic 8-ball. And then they have this really cool, whatever this is. Is this like I don't know what this animal is.
It looks like a giraffe.
Is it?
It's a giraffe.
Is it a giraffe with horns? It's not a bull.
That's a giraffe.
A giraffe market? What? Like,
that's,
it's a cool picture, but if we're talking about a catalyst, does a giraffe or a deer represent catalyst?
It's definitely a giraffe.
Definitely not a bull, but it's got horns and these big ears.
Oh my God.
I don't understand why they picked that picture, but here's the catalyst so the primary catalyst is going to be unique innovations within the Web3 sector. The market is going to bring the next bull run. So that I find to be really interesting.
Well, what is that catalyst, though? What is the one catalyst?
Innovation, unique innovations.
But how's that gonna drive? How's that gonna drive the next bull run? Like, in other words, so I guess if you connect the dots there, we could say that, there was the year of the NFT, there was the year of the DeFi, there was the year of the ICO, there was so every sort of 1 to 2, maybe 3 years, really, in crypto were driven by something. So is that kind of where he's connecting that, like that next bit of innovation is going to drive that next sector?
Yeah, so he's coming here. He said, I believe that infrastructure and data tools will continue to grow and advance, and that we'll see Web3 ownership evolve with a rise in non-custodial multi-chain wallets. Our industry has created a number of Web3 peripheral products And that's pretty much his whole focus. So it says here, it's critical now that the ecosystem focuses on protecting users first and foremost, but also on innovating and building in order to bring crypto and Web3 more deeply into people's daily lives. And that's where he goes down here. I believe that the next bull market will come from innovation in the ways these products are used to create unique utility. So, I mean, you can say all that, but he's pointing out some obvious statements here. So there's really nothing genius about the statements. He's talking about that, there has to be an emphasis on bringing product to, full realization of utility.
Mhm.
You have to build products that people want, and it has to change people's lives. You have to integrate it. So I don't know why it's so, awe-inspiring. He's saying something that's pretty obvious, but he is saying what are some of the critical, points of the ecosystem. We're seeing some fragmentation within the ecosystem right now with what happened with FTX and some others. And now he's saying, hey, you know what? We got to take the next step. We got to start building, innovating. It has to be innovative product that has actual, I don't know. I think it's just basically said a lot of nothing, but at the same point, I kind of agree that when we see the next bull run chip, it's going to be based on utility. We're out of the phase at this point of pets.com. And I think we have to move, to find where the next Google, Amazon, Twitter, whatever it is within the industry. We have to see what the next phase is. We've moved out of the phase of, hey, just build something because it's crypto and it sounds cool. We need some reality now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I also think that the adoption comes from a number of different areas, right? So people, I think, as inflation trends higher, and of course, it's just going to last for a few months, Jeff. That's what everybody told us. They told us that in Europe. They told us that in Australia.
It's
We've been told
transitory.
that here. It's transitory, Jeff. It's like, well, yes, that is transitory, but the cycle is not months. It's more like years. It's more like election cycles. It's more like, yeah, it is transitory, but it's not going to. So I think that as people are looking for a hedge to that inflation, that inflationary issue with their fiat currency being worth less and less and less, and you can certainly see it in the US dollar. And it's so funny, Jeff, that really that downward spiral starts right around the early 1900s when the Federal Reserve came into play. And then, of course, when the gold standard again, that's when inflation went crazy in the 1970s. And of course, when you're in government and you're a government official, you think like, hey, why don't we figure out a better way to produce these numbers? So that you think of, well, let's keep moving the goalpost and the bar so that it looks better for whoever's in office. So if you really look at, it was 20%, 25% in the 1970s. And then of course, the next time we saw some pretty big inflation, which was into the early 80s, we just kind of recalibrated that. Then we had inflation again in the 90s, and well, just kind of tweaked that a little bit. So today's inflation, we're like, it's at 7%. Well, actuality, it's more like anywhere from 15% plus. But we learn ways to recalibrate those numbers and make them look more attractive. The other thing is, the job report comes out, Jeff, and it's like, look at all the jobs. And then a week later, they go like, they issued the correction. I was like, sorry, it was 100,000 less than we reported. But nobody pays attention to that. Everyone's just doing the hurrah.
In the small print. Right.
Yeah, the small print is like, yay, look at all these jobs. Everything's great. I want to get to some of the comments here. DeWalt XRP says HBAR right now is a bargain at the moment. Of course, we look at a lot. Yeah, we look at a lot of those that are going on. Jim D said, 2023 is the year of global fiat currency blowups and bank bail-ins, which is also a good one. Get my dog out of here. Come on, Max. Go. You're knocking my lights over, dude. Dog here. It's driving me crazy over here. Right. Which I think is a good one too. DeWalt says, keep an eye on the circle. And Goldman Sachs. Yeah, there's kind of some stuff going on there. Ryan Benito says, Gary, your position on the roll with SBF over 6 months ago, case over. So that's not going to play well, which is probably why he's going to go. And then Hans is saying when Main Street adoption. I think that's another factor of, and we had the other night, there's another new organization that got some funding for a wallet that doesn't rely on seed phrases, which I think is really more, I believe that this whole idea of custody and trusting exchanges is a big problem. So I think that as that becomes easier, you got to make it easier. People writing down 24-word seed phrases and put it over here and make sure you don't. And something that happened last week, Jeff, and I didn't want to play the video just because of how controversial it is, but there was an arrest made in a car where you had the cop that wears the body cams, and one of the things that got pulled out in front of the camera was the 24-word seed phrase was exposed to the entire world. Anybody could freeze frame that, take a self-custody wallet, recreate that, and boom, you've got, and move on, you have everything. So that's how ridiculous it is. And I remember one time, I think it was one of the morning shows here in the US that showed a QR code. It was like, here's a 1 Bitcoin. And they put it up on screen. They had a QR code. Somebody snapped it, grabbed it, and boom, it was their Bitcoin. This was early days, like 2013, 2014. So this whole idea of this self-custody has got to get easier. And I also think the banks, have to get in on it, because people trust banks, and banks are generally insured. At the FDIC at some point comes to insure cryptocurrency as value, the same type of value as fiat. I believe that would be certainly something. But right now we have the collapse of the exchanges. You had what happened with Celsius, you had Voyager, you had, FTX, and people are just, they've had it, man. I mean, they've had a lot of their life savings just evaporated overnight. So the banks, we had Brian Brooks that had, when he was the OCC, he said the banks can custody crypto. But Jeff, how many banks are actually doing that 2 years later?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We're seeing that banks don't have an appetite for it yet, at least in the U.S. Can't speak for other countries, but it still goes back to the age-old question that we've had here. What comes first? Do the banks start buying out the crypto exchanges, or any of these any of the wallets, any of the wallets that are out there that they start acquiring the technology? Or on the other side, do we start seeing the big crypto exchanges start opening up banks? And what we saw with Kraken is that Kraken did buy a bank over there in Wyoming. And so, that was the beginning. But we also, we're starting to see that the industry it looks like it's in turmoil. It's been beaten down by the SEC. There's other, parties at play. Obviously, FTX, there's some involvement, with government officials and FTX, and just leading up to it. Now there's acknowledgement that Sam Bankman-Fried met with White House officials as they were leading up to all of this. So what was the involvement? What was the purpose? When was it supposed to crash? Was it supposed to crash? At this point they did bring it down to its knees. What's the outcome going to be with it? And how does it impact the banks and the financial institutions? Because obviously we know that they have messengers like Jim Cramer out there that spread the FUD or the FOMO to get people hyped up on behalf. He works on behalf of the big institutions or the big banks in order to get the bag holders out there to start buying up so they can bail, or start getting the bag holders to sell so that the big institutions can buy in. So are we starting to witness that again? Is that where we're at right now, that they're trying to beat down crypto to a point? And is it working? Is what happens in the US, or is this a global issue that the financial institutions on a global scale are trying to beat crypto down so they can get buy-in, so they can start looking at buying up all the exchanges out there and start buying up assets and really start, what their mission through acquisition, because maybe they can't afford at the height. Can they afford to buy these exchanges at the height? I think we're starting to see a turn in the market, Chip, and you're bringing up a solid point, and CZ, if we take off from what CZ was saying, we need real utility. And if we pair that with what you just said, we need easy access to crypto for all. And people don't want to worry about seed phrases. People don't want to worry about a ledger. People don't want it. They don't want their money stolen. They don't want to put it, if there's fear that you put into an exchange and that the exchange could collapse tomorrow and then you lose every last penny that you have. People want security, and overall, banks have provided that, right, Chip? Over
they have. And especially for Main Street,
that
Jeff.
security for Main Street. And that's critical. That's critical to a surviving, financially viable society. You have to have a banking infrastructure so that you can put your money there and feel safe. And all these other countries that, in the banana republics of the world over the years that haven't achieved financial stability, a big part of that was because they don't have access to banks. It's just, that's the reality. Why do we talk so much, or have talked in the past, about the unbanked? Because it's a reality. If you can't bank, you can't get loans, you can't get mortgages, you can't start businesses. There's so many things that you can obviously start a business, but you can't get it funded. There's so many things you can't do. So you need a stable economy, and you need a banking infrastructure in order to succeed. So now the question then goes back to the question that you had is, or that we're talking about, what comes first? Do the banks buy up all the infrastructure of crypto, or do we start seeing crypto get into banking? I think now what we're seeing is a blending of both, but we need regulatory clarity in order to get to that next level. To get to the reality, we need regulatory clarity.
Right. And that's why I'm really happy that people were really bullish in that poll, that of really looking forward and seeing that, crypto regulations could happen. And it could be a bipartisan thing. It has been bipartisan for the most of it. Now, there may be some, it has to be, it really does. And I think that's probably one of the few things going into a split Congress that might be able to be agreed upon. And I also wanted to say, here we have so Dawn says, Happy New Year, guys, from Australia. And BZ also says Happy New Year's Eve, also from down under. And I wanted to put this up on the screen because look at this right here. It is 2023 in Australia right now, except for,
and we missed it. We should have said Happy New Year 30 minutes ago.
Happy New Year. Well, it depends where you are too, because Adelaide just celebrated the New Year about a minute ago. If I refresh this,
that's amazing.
So Adelaide, it just turned midnight, and then we have Perth is that 9:20, 9:30?
How is that even possible? Look at those hour changes. What is?
Yeah, well, crazy. I mean, it's a big country, so it's like, look at some disparity. But Kingston's already celebrated, so there you go, right there.
They celebrated a while ago.
If
you're in Perth, get ready for your New Year's coming up. If you're in Adelaide, hey, Happy New Year! Happy New Year to everybody in Adelaide.
Or in Australia.
Everybody give a quick shout out what you guys are planning for New Year's Eve, which is amazing.
And that's also a good one here too. I wanted to kind of transition in this as we're talking about. Go ahead, Jeff.
Before you get there, hey, the Voice Ireland said, in Ireland, considered savvy investors believe that they have their finger on the pulse. They buy and collect whiskey. There you go. I like that. I like the idea of collecting whiskey. I think that's a great idea.
It's always a great idea. And that's my neighbor and I. We give each other a nice bottle of whiskey every year. And it's awesome. Yeah, it's always fun to see what we don't plan it that way. We kind of do, but it just happens that way. And my other neighbor, we give wine because they're like more wine connoisseurs, so we drink wine.
There's some really great Irish whiskeys out there now. They did a kind of a top review. Somehow Redbreast got into the top review. Redbreast is good, but I wouldn't put it in the top. Marcel Hubert said, I can go out with a shirt here in Germany. I don't know what that means exactly, but maybe it's not cold. Maybe it's warm. I don't know.
That's what I'm guessing, Jeff. Or just because you can do it. It could be like -6 degrees. And they're like, hey, I can go out in a shirt. It's like, look at me, it's.
That's right. Mike's coming to hang out with us.
Mike, sounds good, Mike. Mike's coming down this way. Yeah, I know, Mike. Mike and I talk often off. I mean, when he comes into the show. But anyway, yeah, Mike, it'd be cool. He's on the West Coast over there. They just got beaten up by that. I call it a storm, a hurricane, really. And then I want to put this up because this kind of is a year in review. We're kind of looking back in 2022, and I put this up there. And I want you guys to think about this, whether you're watching the replay or not, but also drop it in the comments. But it's always great to share wins and if there's any wins, let's share some wins, because a lot of times all we hear is like, oh, boo-hoo, FTX collapsed and Celsius and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of nice to see a win once in a while. And Hans Loaded says, got to point out that you got to go ahead and click that like and then subscribe. I think that's what
And
that
if
was.
yeah, well, that's exactly what it was. You said, and this is how you do it. Watch. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and the bell notifier.
There it is right there. So, so guys, drop it in the chat if you had a win, because let's celebrate wins. I mean, man, it's about
The
time.
big win. What was
So
your greatest personal crypto story of 2022?
So I had a couple of responses to this. Like, it's funny that now you get to actually see how many people viewed it, which is something that Elon Musk added, which I like, because you can see that some people saw it. So that means they scrolled by it in their feed, on their phone, on their computer. So almost 1,700 people saw this. 5 people liked it. A lot of people avoided it because, let's say, it was a tough year. Okay. So first up, we had Sir John, which said, to me, Telcoin made me significant gains both on its way up in 21 as well as its way on down this year. First in value, then in bag build up. So now I'm just waiting for the capitulation to pack bags peacefully and wait till 2024. So good on you, Sir John. And then we had Danny XRP Bray, who said, I sold all my Luna on the 24th of December, 2021 for $130 each. 4 months later, it was 0.0002 winning.
Man, look at that. You got to like stories like that. I like that.
You got to like that. So just basically calling the top of the market, man, what a story that is. And to just know that you pulled that trigger and made that right decision. Steve Goldbranson said that his wife Joni had a substantial amount of XRP on Celsius. She got rewarded a pretty substantial amount and then got out 2 weeks before everything hit the fan. Another huge win. And you can see kind of a theme to this in the last two, which all have to do with top of market getting out before the crash, getting out before the Celsius crashed. And then we have Alayam Jamal said that the Ponzi strong block, remember strongblock.io, that was everybody was in. It was like every crypto shiller at one point was strong block. And I'm going to retire. I'm going to quit my job and I'm just going to quit life. And the rewards were so great and everyone's coming in. He says it was crazy. It was like having your own money printer. It lasted 8 months. And for me, it was euphoria. You know, and I knew some people that were doing that as well.
What happened to Strong Block? Where'd they go? Are they still around?
I don't know. I think it crashed, to be honest with you. I don't know. But I know that it wasn't what it wasn't the kind of like, it wasn't pulling what it once was.
Steve Walker, I bought Bitcoin, made money. I bought ETH and made money. I'm now all in on XRP and down over 20,000. It
happens, man.
Unfortunately, the trend with the.
But again, it also depends on when you buy too, because a lot of people are up because they bought early days. So you know, it depends on on kind of how that is.
Depends when, and the whole market, sentiment, and this is. It's interesting too, because, we look at Chip, we look at the crypto space, you say, hey, what's the big win? Then I look at the stock market, and I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and she was telling me, she manages her portfolio and my son's portfolio, and, she is able to move stuff around at the right time, and, they're doing really well. And then I look at my portfolio and the funds that I went into tech, and everything is down. It's crazy, right? And then I look at the ARK fund with Cathie Wood, and Cathie Wood's going big now, buying the dip in the market, buying big into Tesla, buying big into Coinbase, and
Coinbase.
one of the ARK funds, one of the Cathie Wood's ARK funds is down 70%. 70%.
Yeah,
those are big numbers, and so it's not unique just in crypto, but what's interesting about it overall, is that when we look at the opportunities, and not every buy is the best opportunity, but there's a lot of opportunities in the bear markets, in the down markets, and you just have to have the guts to put it in and the money available, and the, having some liquid asset to put into the markets, whether it's crypto or stock or whatever. But these are the times. And then when we look forward 10 years from now, it's going to be drastically different. 10 years ago, where XRP was, drastically different than where it is now. Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of it. It's really sometimes mind numbing, as we look at the ups and downs of the bull markets, bear markets. It's a long-term game. We have to look at over the long term. What did we learn from the past couple of years? What do we learn from the different bear markets, like the bear market of 2017 or the bull market of 2017 into 18, and then the crash. And then the winter that we went through in crypto, and now the development, and what is CZ talking about? What's the next step for crypto? What do we really need? And what you had mentioned, that we need we need easy adoption for Main Street to get into crypto. Things are changing. It's going to change. Now it's time. How much time is it going to take for that adoption? And then where does it all go? Who's going to win? Who's going to lose?
Where does it all end up? So Mike said, he's holding and having friends like you. He's talking about on the chain. So that one right there is really cool. H-bar is banging. This one here, Michael J. Love says, my wins are 1,000 more XRP added to my bags, 10 more quant, plus 1,000 more ADA. So that's good. So this is really what happens when you have a severe bear market. People are like, oh, they're holding off. But that's when you really, the experts will tell you to buy in the bear market. But it seems like when the bull market's taken off, people are seeing that there are gains being had. Then everyone jumps in, right? A lot of people jumped in when, last year when XRP was on its way up to $1.50. A lot of people jumped in really late.
Yeah, but what is late, early? Where's it actually going? Is it, past the all-time high? And this is, Chip, I think also where we see an artificial hold on some of the valuation or some of the price points of some of the assets. Gold, Kenwood is buying into gold, Kenwood Capital.
It's awesome. And then we've got Michael G. Love says his dollar cost average on XRP is now at 20 cents. So there's somebody that's been holding for a long, long time. If your dollar cost average is 20 cents, that's pretty solid right there. I have to say, commend you on that.
Alchemist, these apes throwing feces at each other is how it ends.
Maybe right about that. It could possibly be something. Also, he says Egypt is buying a lot of gold, as are a lot of countries, because, gold is, if you look at, you could say a stable coin, but a stable coin is tied to, most of them are tied to a US dollar, and the US dollar is worth less and less. So a lot of times people want to park some value on the sidelines, but it buys less and less. So, you look at something like gold, where it's more or less been stable. That's another way, but again, it's also tied usually back to a fiat currency, depending on your host, your home country. So there's always that as well. So it's kind of I guess you just pick your poison, really. What do you feel more comfortable in? It's going to have stable over time. And gold, if you're buying, not paper gold, but if you're actually buying real gold and you have a safe in your house and you have gold, at some point, gold has stood the test of time. No one's arguing whether gold will go up or down, or it's going to go up, it's going to go down. But it's been the true test of time. That was the currency back in the day. It'll always be currency to some point. And you can see why all these governments are hoarding gold. There's no secret there at all. I think I did have something.
Scuba Man is drinking Jameson on the rocks. No other whiskey tastes good for me. You know what? Jameson is a perfect go-to whiskey.
A lot of people like Jameson.
Whiskey, it's not expensive.
My favorite.
It's like $28, $29 a bottle. You can get the 18. I got a bottle of the 18, which was like around 120, maybe. I forget exactly. But Jameson is actually it's a good. It goes down really nice, especially if you have it with a pint of Guinness. You have a pint of Guinness and a Jameson, and kind of just drink them side by side. Don't just take the Jameson as a shot. They mix really nicely.
Well, there you go. My go-to is Bullet. That's it. Bullet is like, I've been through every possible incarnation. Bourbon. I love bourbon. Yeah, I do like bourbon. And, but I'm just saying, but I also, and the reason being is because, first of all, it's just like that's my table whiskey, if you will. So I love the bourbon. I've been through every possible bourbon. I've purchased most of them, but I always keep coming back to that as my table bourbon. And of course, I did get some whiskey for, I do have some other regular whiskey sitting there, and especially some Scotch, which I tend to gravitate more towards, especially the Lagavulin, which is one of my favorites. I like that heavy peat taste. And that's probably one of my go-tos as far as Scotch is concerned. But
and how about Oban 14?
Oban's a great.
Oban is good.
Oban is fantastic. Really, you can't. Scotch whiskey basically is just probably one of the greatest of all whiskeys. It's like you pretty much can't go. Rarely have I ever purchased anything that I thought like, well, there's one that will burn the inside of your throat and your esophagus all the way down. That's the one I won't name names, but that's the one I tend to stay away from. It's a little bit too harsh, although a lot of people swear by it.
So you probably like the Highlands Scotch, a little sweeter flavor. You don't like the peaty, salty flavors of the
Well, no, I mean,
Scotch, more like a bourbon.
Lagavulin's probably the heaviest of the peat that there are, man.
So you like the peaty? That's
I
interesting.
do like the peat. I just don't like I don't like the destroy my esophagus. I thought the ones just they're harsh for the sake of being harsh.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, that's
those
too
are,
much.
Johnny Walker right there. That's which is a blend. Yeah, there's a lot of people that like blends. No, I mean, I've been through them all, but I mean, the other thing, Glenfiddich is another great one, especially as you get up towards the higher ones right there. There's so many phenomenal
What's a wild turkey?
wild turkey. There you go. Give it a play tonight. Give it a play. So let's so I wanted to go into what's this next one. So this one I thought this was an interesting story. It's a little bit different than what the headline is, but if I read this headline to you, it says opinion piece. This was over on CoinDesk. This is written by attorney Brian Fry. It says NFTs are securities, and it's great. Artist and attorney Brian Fry writes about why non-fungible tokens represent investment contracts and social clout. So he has kind of a cool spin on this thing. It's actually a pretty cool article. And he says, everyone in the NFT market is terrified that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, will decide that NFTs are securities and they'll try to go ahead and regulate them. They should get over it because, of course, NFTs are securities. And you're like, what? That's what makes them so powerful and promising. So rather than avoid the SEC regulation, the NFT industry should embrace this categorization. It's inevitable, desirable, especially because once the SEC understands how the NFT market works, it's likely to regulate, but with a very light touch. So as I'm reading this, Jeff, does this kind of like resonating with you at all? Are you like, what the hell is he talking about?
What the hell is he talking about?
Yeah, okay, that's where I was at, the same place. So I was like, so he's a law professor at the University of Kentucky. So he says, I hope that got your attention. Now let me explain why via an analogy. And he goes on to say, well, the art market has always been a securities market. We just couldn't see it because the objects got in the way. Where's that drum roll when I needed it?
Oh, that's interesting. Hang on.
Yeah. So you got that drum roll ready? No, that's not. So the art market is the market as art as an investment. So most people think when you buy artwork, you're actually buying an object. Wrong. You're really buying an entry on an artist catalog raison, which is the artworks of the art market and attributed to that particular artist. So that ledger,
bringing up an interesting point.
right? So it's like I kind of like see where he's going with this. So the ledger entry, usually accompanied by a physical token, typically dirty canvas, lumpy lock. It doesn't matter what's represented because the ledger entry has value. You can see this is true because of the connection between the ledger entry and the object is broken. The object is worthless, even though it hasn't physically changed. In other words, the object just enables the sale of the ledger entry like a bearer bond. Interesting. So the NFT market works exactly the same way. So it just eliminates the object, enables connectors to trade ledger entries directly rather than by proxy. Obviously, that's great because it's way cheaper and more efficient than trading fragile, costly items. It's used to be that the collectors traded receipts for paintings stored in a Swiss art freehold. Now they can trade NFTs instead. What a relief. But eliminating the art object forces us to wrestle with the nature of both the NFT and the art markets. I refer to NFTs as uncanny tokens because, as Freud observed, they represent the return of the repressed as the familiar becomes unfamiliar. So why do so many people find NFTs and the NFT market unsettling? Because they take art and the art market, which everyone thought they understood, and make it look kind of weird. So why would collectors spend $1 million on a digital receipt? Same reason they spend $1 million on a dirty canvas. They hope to sell it for more. So
Now this is interesting.
Anticipating value change here. So
but does that then? So he brings up a point that it's a security because you're expecting that your asset increases in value, but that increase in value, buy an asset, increase in value doesn't make it a security. So he has to add other elements to it, which I'm
Correct.
wondering if he's going to bring in there because he hasn't mentioned any other elements. So where is his argument then that it's a security? I'm not seeing that.
So he
All
says
he's talking about is the profit that you can make. So let's go.
So what you're really buying when you buy an artwork or an NFT, a fractional interest in the commercial goodwill associated with the artist, or rather the share of the artist clout. And it's kind of where he's going with this whole thing is
Yep.
that there's that whole social clout of the actual artist, because without the artist, the token itself is kind of like, he's saying it's not really, there's no value. The value is in the actual artwork itself. So if the artist becomes like a star, then the clout increases and you'll be able to sell your artwork or NFT as a profit. But if the star fades and your artwork or NFT is worthless, just like any other type of an investment. So he's tying that success.
So that this is interesting, there's a statement that you'll get to. We live in a clout economy. This is interesting. I mean, it really is. So now the argument then goes back to are collectibles securities? Is art a security? If a collectible isn't deemed a security and art isn't deemed a security, how can an NFT be deemed a security?
Right.
And then how does a crypto asset become a security?
Right. And this is the one paragraph that kind of made sense to me. He says, is an investment in artwork or NFTs a security? Of course, the Supreme Court's well-known Howey test states that an investment is a security. The SEC can regulate it. Then it's an investment of money in a common enterprise with the expectation of profit based on the efforts of others. Every investment in artwork or NFTs is an investment in the artist's career with the expectation, or at least the hope, of profit by virtue of the artist becoming famous. It couldn't be more obvious that art and NFT collectors are buying security interest in the artist's career. So that's where he's tying the security is to the artist and the career and that social clout.
But I think the issue with this, though, is that when you buy that art, you're not buying that art as being sold by an enterprise. So there is no common enterprise, even though the artist, you're not investing in the artist, you're buying the artwork. So it's like buying, XRP, it's like buying anything and saying, hey, I expect this to go up in value. Yeah. If I buy gold, I expect it to go up in value, but that would mean that gold would also then be a security, because if I buy this gold, that means that I'm investing in the enterprise of those that dug up the gold and melted the gold and, withdrew, it took out all the impurities from the gold. I'm investing in that common enterprise for the expectation of profit. But I think that's the issue here, is that there's a kind of a separation, is that when I buy that art, yes, I expect it to go up in value because of the fact that it was made by this specific artist, but I'm not investing in that artist. There is no common enterprise here. I didn't buy the art from the artist directly with an expectation of the increase of value of this artwork. I mean, maybe you could, if that artist is selling parts of his art or selling artwork to people and saying that, hey, with a promise that it's going to go up in value based on whatever his efforts are. This is a great argument.
This is a good argument. Yeah, it is a great argument.
It is a really good argument, because that here we're seeing that, like the NFTs or the artwork, you're buying it on the secondary market. So if you're buying that artwork on the secondary market, is it then a security because you bought it on the secondary market? But if the artist sold it directly as a common enterprise, you're now investing in me as a corporation, the common enterprise. He's, because he's obviously registered himself as a corporation of sorts. Are you then investing, when you buy that artwork, are you investing in his corporation with the expectation that he's going to get more popular, so the artwork you bought becomes more valuable?
Right. And so
interesting.
It's an interesting look. I think there's a little bit of tongue in cheek going on here as well. I mean, I think that to sit there and take this on face value, but again, raising the argument's a good one. And this one right here, he says it couldn't be more obvious that art and NFT collectors are buying a security interest in an artist's career. However, I would disagree with that statement only because I think a lot of artists are unknown. They're anonymous. A lot of NFT artists are anonymous. It's whether or not the collection takes off, and really the value is derived in the secondary market, right? So we've seen that with X-Spectre. So X-Spectre, the base price was 777 XRP. Then it was 888 XRP. It's one of the coolest projects out there. But what we've seen happen is on the secondary market, them selling for twice the value, going for 15 to 20,000 XRP. And then there's some as high as 30,000. Like as that increases, that's what happened with Bored Apes, right? There was a floor price, and then that eventually increased. Did you throw up the Oz crypto there?
Well, this one first. Hodl the Otto says everything is a security. Just ask Gary.
That's true.
And then Oz, well, you got that one. Happy New Year from Australia, guys. But this is the one I wanted to put up here. Does that mean exchanges are the common enterprise by the same logic?
Yeah, and again, I think
But
that
the exchange didn't create the art. So I think that's why the exchange itself wouldn't, be the common enterprise, because if you have the sellers, but what he's saying is that the asset, it's still putting it back to the art. So you have the artist is selling their collection by some the house, wherever you go to buy your art, the gallery or your
gallery, the
galleries.
house, the thing,
the thing.
the thing.
But they're selling it on the secondary market. So the house or the gallery would then be considered an exchange because they're the ones selling off the asset. Are they then selling the security? But then it goes back to the common enterprise, which would be the artist. So the exchange is still the intermediary, and so if we're looking, and it's interesting to look at this from that perspective, the art, looking at secondary market and the primary market, man, it gets crazy. And this is where Gary Gensler has made everybody crazy. The guy's a nut job.
That's the whole idea. Again, it really comes down more to the scheme. It's just like the oranges in the Howey that derived out of the Howey test. The oranges were not the security. In this case, the XRP is not the security. It's the way it's packaged, right? It was a scheme on the way it was put together with the common enterprise expectation of profits from others, and that's where that investment contract comes in, and that's where Ripple is going to really, in our opinion, be victorious because there is no there's no investment contract. People that were buying XRP didn't know anything about Ripple. It's just like, hey, look at that. I remember seeing it early days before I invested in it and said, here's something that's moving up. And I waited to pull the trigger on it because back in the day, I owned Bitcoin, just saying. But, and that happens. So there you go.
There you go. And Chip, here you go. Wolf Gaming, by the same logic, the SEC's argument has never made sense. And then Hodl the Otto, due to inflation, food could be a security because it costs more every single week. And are you investing it with, the expectation of value?
So kind of wrap this up, he talks about, and he gets into the light touch. Okay, so can the SEC regulate the art market and the NFT market? Well, of course it can, but it doesn't want to. Or at the very least, wouldn't regulate the asset class very heavily. Everyone says the key question is whether the investment is a security, but that's stupid. The Howey test is hopelessly expansive, and that's a good point right there. It was like this, and now everything's a security, right? So anything can be a security if you squint a little. And the important question is whether the SEC wants to regulate an investment. That's what it always comes down to, because the SEC doesn't want to regulate the art market. And I suspect the SEC will soon figure this out, that it doesn't want to regulate the NFT market either. But again, have you met Gary Gensler? I mean, he hasn't met anything that isn't a security.
That's why I like this, though. Anything can be a security if you squint a little.
Is that a security, Jeff? Let me see. Oh, yeah, that's a security.
Yeah, and Sophie was saying, Gary said they don't need to change crypto law. Where's this law document? Must be in Lubin's pocket somewhere. I mean, it's so outlandish. It's so outlandish, Chip. Oz Crypto said, yeah, that's why I think their logic is wrong, because if a value increase comes from the secondary market without a common enterprise, it's not a security.
Well said.
It all leans on common enterprise.
Correct. That's well said.
They're mincing words, and they are squinting too much.
Yeah.
Gary Gensler said, here, squint your eyes. Look, it looks like a security. It's a security. It's all security. And
there's also that 4 prongs. He kind of forgets about a couple of them, which really kind of the ones where they're on the losing side of.
Well, he never talks about common enterprise. He just says, hey, it's increasing in value.
Right. And where's the investment contract, right? And what does the effort of Ripple have? I mean, famously, we've seen great news come out about Ripple and a partnership, and then the token tax. So there's no, because it's tied really to Bitcoin. Everything's tied to the Bitcoin. Bitcoin rises, all tokens rise. Bitcoin drops, and then we see the same thing. We've seen some uncoupling with some some tokens, but it's very few and far between.
AR, why is Gary Gensler not referred to as the security guard?
Well, he may be from now on. He certainly has that opinion. Well,
From
I mean,
behind
anyway, I thought it was a cool take. This one here, he says, my best guess is the SEC will leave well enough alone, maybe regulate a few tokens that look like most of the stocks and then back off. But wait, this is where it gets cool, because the NFT market is really a security market. In cloud, its potential is massive. We live in a cloud economy in which people value nothing more than fame and celebrities. And so anyway, I thought it was a fun article, only in the way that he raised some questions, made you think a little bit about it, but then also poked holes and poked at the Howey test and this massively expansive test. And it was one of the more fun reads that I've had in a while, because, I read a lot of stuff on CoinDesk, and a lot of it's just pedantic. It's just very, but this one was a very good opinion piece. And every time they read an opinion piece that kind of like resonates, I loved it. So I thought it was a pretty good one there, Jeff.
Man. That was solid. Alchemist said those pump and dump plagiarized art. What is that? Oh, he's talking about the Trump NFTs are the future proof of concept money laundering in the fleece suckers to fleece suckers, more monkey JPEGs,
that was mine.
babies for craven degenerates. Now, one of the big arguments, forget about his spin on
Trump
things,
NFTs went up in value, and they 7x'd. Okay, so that was like the best thing. Went up, 7x, sold.
But his argument here, talking about the JPEGs, are what is the value of the NFT? The JPEG, is it the art? People's perception of value on it, people's desire to have it, the people behind the project. What are we looking at? Beanie Babies. If the people are too young to know, the craze of the Beanie Babies and how insane the price points went up on some of them. Those little plush stuffed animals.
Collectibles, though. I mean, look,
they're collectibles. And that was a big pump and dump.
Pokemon that's another one. Baseball cards. I mean, all that stuff. Look, scarcity is everything. That's one of the reasons Bitcoin is only over 21 million, but when they're all mined, there's probably going to be like maybe 14, 15 million at the end of the day. That will actually ever be possible in circulation, not to mention the 4 or 5 million that were already lost, and future ones will be lost. A lot of people have lost it over time. So, but I did want to say that 2023 will be the year that Jeff and I finally release our NFT series. We've seen other people do it. We've put some thought into it.
Been working,
and we'll see. Well, we're going to test the market ourselves, Jeff. Will the on-the-chain family have an appetite for an on-the-chain NFT project? It goes back. If you've been here a while, you will probably get a hint of where this is going. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna release an NFT series, and still pretty excited about it.
And it will be awesome.
It will be awesome. It'll come out. We'll see. We'll be in that, and hopefully the bear market won't last that long, and we'll be able to see where this puppy goes. But
Nash Caster is shaving his beard for New Year's.
Nobody knows. Oh, no one's gonna know.
But
nobody knows. Well, somebody's gonna know when they see you. They're gonna be like, "Man, Nash shaved his beard. Who is this guy?" It's always funny when you see somebody that has a beard for a long time, and then you shave their beard, and you're like, "Man, I didn't know that's what you look like under there."
Right, you might want to grow that thing.
You get the definition, because what you really notice is the space between the nose and the lips. You notice that a lot. You notice the the features is really weird. It's like you notice around the mouth region. It's like everything just looks different. The cheeks, it's really strange.
I think Chip should grow a beard. There you go.
Nah, man, I'm not a beard.
Chip will show up for the new year. You'll show up for Sunday show.
And I can't, so I can't really
next year.
I don't really grow a lot of facial hair, so it's like, being fair skinned and all, it's just not my thing.
Not your thing. Oz Crypto. Right now, the speculative value of the crypto market is just speculation on price increase. Fundamentals clearly mean very little. Otherwise, the top 10 would look very different.
That's true for now. That's true for now. But again, everything at some point, it does change. It possibly will change. At some point, we'll see what happens.
Jim D was saying, Scotty, somehow I missed the Scott. I didn't see the question that was posed, but Jim D is saying, good question. If XRP is a security in Ripple, we might want that rolling to get the dividends of Ripple rather than from crypto. Interesting.
Yeah, I saw this one here. So this was just this one here was some unusual whales said breaking. Federal Reserve reverse repos hit an all-time high of 2.55 trillion. Ed Picurni, it's not the real guy, it's a parody account. He said that's 2.55 trillion of unaudited cash that the Fed is providing risk-free awards for. Rich leverage their assets with low interest loans. They buy stock at lower prices. They pressure the Fed to print money. Then they sell stock to the Fed at a high price. And then they purchase more assets and they leverage that by shorting a downturn. Anyone want to discuss how the system is exacerbating affordable housing crisis, out of control rent from landlords, and overall inflation? Does anyone want to discuss the statistical relationship for lifespan between homeowners versus renters? Also, the Department of Defense coincidentally can't account for $2 trillion. You know, last time they lost $2 trillion, the towers came down, Jeff. The day before they announced it, and then the next day, just by weird coincidence, this time now they can't account for. I think they could if they had blockchain involved. That's the whole thing. It's like, so one of the things that I see coming for 2023, we'll do our predictions here, but 2023 and beyond, I think that really blockchain is a threat to government, blockchains to the established players, because of the fact of the transparency. People like transparency to points like, here, let me show you my limited transparency. Here it is. And it's like not the whole picture, but the whole idea of blockchain voting, one person, one vote, and the idea of representation. Yeah, in the 1700s, when you sent somebody to Washington, they were going to represent you, and there were 2 senators for every state, and they were going to be looking out for you, right? Supposedly. And so we still have that system in place that worked really well, you know, a couple hundred years ago, but now we have something called the DAO. We could actually put in, and we could really have representation of the people, for the people, and actually by the people. And that's a threat, because those people that go and represent you at wherever that capital is on your behalf, don't really do that anymore. And they go there and they become ultra rich. It's a weird thing that happens in almost every country, where government official goes with good intentions to represent the people and then gets rich. And then everyone's like, I guess that's how it works. And nobody investigates. And everyone's like, well, I guess that's just how it is. So I think we will see more happen with the blockchain. Any predictions you have for XRP? I'll also say that Ripple wins the case. That's my prediction.
Yeah, yep. I'm going to start with that one. I see that Ripple will win the case. There'll be an outcome. I think it'll be a positive outcome. You know, that's how I'm looking at this. I believe that there's going to be a positive outcome, also because we're seeing a changeover of the House. I think that's going to have a lot of leverage to the direction things are going. I think there's going to put a lot of pressure on the existing administration's SEC. I think the SEC has gone crazy. So we're going to see some reining in of what they're doing. And there'll be some heads on the chopping block. But overall, I see crypto moving in a direction of clarity. I see more innovation in the space. I believe that we're going to start seeing some of the cream rising to the top within the crypto space. And what you said, one person, one vote, I think that's critical. I think that we have to move to a decentralized framework. I don't know how soon that's going to happen. You know, it might take 10 years, it might take more. But I believe that we've seen the building block of that moving in that direction. And it's such a threat to the establishment that we see how they're fighting back. And they're going to, they're not going to go down quietly. They don't want voting to be one person, one vote. That goes contrary to what they've been building, but decentralization is bringing that. It's putting power into the hands of the people, both from a monetary perspective as well as from a political perspective. So you bring all that together. I think that's what 2023 is going to bring us. We're going to start seeing more of the foundation of those principles.
Yay.
And there you go. Yay.
Yeah. I love it, Jeff. It sounds good to me. And the kids love it too. Yeah, everyone's happy about that. Very, very good.
Well, there's some other interesting stuff, like Nash is saying healthcare group going to bomb, I think, and cause a money shift. I think healthcare is another major one. It's interesting how Alchemist, you just put that one up there. Talk about insurance. There are a lot of areas that have to be decentralized. Insurance is another one of them. Property insurance is is getting out of control, and there has to be some regulation. There has to be some control over how these insurance companies are fleecing the people. And, you put that back in. Imagine you put insurance into some sort of a DAO. I think that would be pretty amazing too, Chip. I think there's a lot that can be migrated over to a decentralized framework to the benefit of everybody. Take out the centralized nature of things. If you look at, even from an insurance perspective, think about the millions and millions and millions of dollars that are paid out to, the employees of these insurance agencies and the top, C-suites of these insurance agencies.
Yeah.
And remove a lot of the fat from these infrastructures. Same thing with the financial institutions. That's why decentralization is such a major threat to them, because they know that you take all the fat out of these organizations. Once you take out the fat from these organizations, they can't move money around the way they do. They don't have their slush funds anymore. And it puts all the power back into the hands of the people, changes things at a fundamental level. We'll see if that happens. But we're moving in that kind of a direction. I think we'll see a blend of all of it.
There you go.
Crown is good too. Crown is
a lot of people wishing a lot of actually limited edition Crown. 12 years, very tasty. There you go. And that's all we have, guys, for this year. We will see you next year or tomorrow. Same thing. But if you haven't celebrated,
it'll be a long year, Chip. A long year. We'll see you guys in a year from now or next year.
Yeah, be safe. And I saw a funny
meme. Have an amazing years, Chip.
Yeah, I saw a funny meme that says, I'm not sure what I'm doing for New Year's, but I'm not sure I'll make it to the living room this year or not. And that's to go to bed early. Something. That's how some people's New Year's are too. But I'm actually going over for some friends' house. Looking forward to it. I haven't seen them in a while. Celebrate with them. And always good to ring in the new year with friends, especially good friends. So everyone have a safe and happy holiday, New Year's. And we will see you guys on the next one. We'll see you guys next year. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Hans Loaded, our producer, has done an incredible job. 2022, all the shorts you guys see, puts those together and gets them out there. He also adds chapters to all the shows. If you see a show and you want to go to a specific bit, you can go there to a video and say, I want to watch that again. What did they say about this? You can simply go to one of our videos and you can go to the exact moment that we talked about it. So thank you for that. Flare community, also another great content creator. Exciting what's coming up. We didn't talk about Flare, but Flare is happening.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about Flare tomorrow.
But Flare is happening. Excited about it. And we'll get into that. We can't do it all. I wanted to. So there you go. Guys, see you guys. Happy New Year. See you next year. And take care. Have a good one. Chip and Jeff.
We are out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.